The latest tech.
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions.
Interviews.
And we are evolving, and we are seeing an amazing opportunity that is happening.
Accessibility.
Accessibility is one of our core values.
This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome to Double Tap TV. Thank you guys so much for being here each and every single week. If you're already following us on Twitter, do it right now. Take a quick break, a pause. Follow us on Twitter. It is at Double Tap Canada. If you want to reach out by email, you can do that as well. It is feedback@ami.ca. I am Mark Aflalo. Always by my side is Stephen Scott. And Stephen, this week we're talking about apps that can help blind people live more independent lives. And the best of all of the apps we're going to be talking about on this week's show are absolutely free.
That's right, Mark. Some amazing apps are out there. We're going to be focusing in on the latest apps in today's show, which have been produced for Android users. But before that, I wanted to talk to you about one for the Apple users out there. However, strangely, it comes from Microsoft, and it's called Seeing AI. Now, you will almost certainly have heard me talk about this app from time to time on my various radio shows and here on Double Tap TV as well. It's a free app, as you say, Mark. It's available on all Apple smartphones and has a number of features that make simple tasks really, most people take for granted possible for those of us with a visual impairment. But don't take my word for it. Here's Andre Louis, a London-based musician who uses Seeing AI to independently accomplish day-to-day tasks, talking about it.
Seeing AI is one of the biggest deals in technology, I think, at the moment for visually impaired users. It's an app that you can read almost anything, anywhere with it.
Kilburn High Road. Fashion. Workspace. Mayonnaise.
It has a multitude of functions, and they all work together to produce something that you can use whenever you need it. It might even be considered to be a Swiss Army knife of apps. Of all the parts of Seeing AI, I really do think short text is the biggest of the game changers.
Northwest 6.
Because I've never seen anything like that in any other app before. And I like being in the back of cabs or in buses and pointing it out the window and seeing what I pass on the way to places.
Mobile phone NC 4000 services.
One of the greatest things about short text for me is that if there's no one else in the house, I can sort the post into who's who.
Mrs. K. Louis. Mrs. Kirsten Louis.
So I don't open my wife's post and she doesn't get cross with me.
So that's a flavour of how Andre uses the app, but there's so much more to it. It can detect people that you have stored in its database, and you can even have people described in front of you. That can be rather humiliating at times, Mark, especially when it describes, I think it described as a 61-year-old man at one point. I don't look my best at the moment in my life, but I don't think I look 61. But yes, it can even scan and read documents as well, such as letters or pages of a book, which can be really useful, making sure that you know what that bill says, or, read a book at your own leisure if you want, have it read back to you. The app even guides you so you can get the whole, page scanned. You don't have to worry about whether or not the book is the right way up or that you've cut off half the corner or whatever it might be. It will also identify currency. It will use barcodes as well to find out product information such as cans of food.
The app recognizes saved friends.
Jenny near top right, 3 feet away.
Describes the people around you, including their emotions.
28-year-old female wearing glasses looking happy.
Or scan and read documents like books and letters. The app will guide you and recognize the text with its formatting.
Top and left edge is not visible. Hold steady. Lease agreement. Disagreement.
Now, more recently, new features have popped up, such as the ability to detect how far away you are from someone with the new Lidar scanner technology that was being found inside the new iPhone 12 Pro lineup. It really is an incredible app, and it offers a lot of features, Mark, for my favourite price, free.
You know what? When the app first came out with the Lidar support, because I had the brand new iPhone, I put it to the test in different scenarios. I even put it to the test in absolute darkness, and it worked miraculously because Lidar doesn't really require any light. It just enables you to kind of use sonar to find that depth, which is really cool. And you know what? At the end of the day, you can't put a price on free, can you? And you know what, Stephen? This app continues to blow my mind because it constantly evolves. New features are always added time and time again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we talk a lot about specialist technology on here, and the reason it's not that I'm against specialist tech, but the reason I love apps is because they can be developed. The hardware you have, the phone, can remain the same phone. You can have the same app, but get new features almost, on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis whenever the company actually produces them. So, it's really great when you have these apps that are so capable, but yet are so, have so much potential in them.
Well, on the Android side, as you alluded to at the beginning, there are other apps in the same price range, which we like, and Google's Lookout app is definitely one of them. So when we come back after a quick break, we welcome a special guest from Google. So stick around, it is Double Tap TV.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome back to Double Tap TV. Today we are talking all about assistive apps that are free. I am Mark Aflalo, always by my side, Stephen Scott, but Stephen is standing by with our special guest all lined up.
Yes, joining me now is Scott Adams. He's the product manager at Google, and he takes care of the Lookout app. Scott, thanks for joining me today on Double Tap TV. So before we delve into the Lookout app, let's see how you showed it off to the world as it launched.
My first experience with the Labyrinth was this amazing piece of canvas art that we're being allowed to walk on, kind of in this swirling choreography.
Outdoors.
I was so excited to experience this new thing. My name is Maya Scott. I'm a theater and art instructor. I was born visually impaired. I kind of see like an impressionist painting. I'm often scooching around, working with my supplies, and they don't always end up where I want them to be. And I can't find the scissors.
Scissors at 12 o'clock. Maya picks them up.
Both as an artist and a teacher, building a labyrinth was the next step for me, to invite people to have a physical experience with art and not just observe it.
In a lavender field.
Very much in our lives, we're invited to watch or listen instead of witnessing or doing.
Lavender at 12 o'clock. Maya knocks a device around her neck, then leans down to smell the blooms. Text appears.
Scott, what a great way to tee up this amazing app. For those that don't know about it yet, what is Google Lookout?
Of course. In a nutshell, it's a talking camera for your phone. So it will use the smartphone's camera to describe the environment to the user. There are 5 basic modes. First of all, either reading a short snippet of text, reading an entire document aloud, identifying objects in an environment, so furniture, TV, coffee mug, etc., identifying US currency, and then also identifying products, food products by their label. So you can distinguish between, let's say, a can of corn and a can of chili and a can of coconut milk.
Now, there are other apps out there that can do similar things. I mentioned one just in the last segment. But why did Google decide that they wanted to make their own?
Sure. I'd say kind of 2 big reasons. Number one, building for everyone is one of our core values as a company, and really think of like ways to innovate with this community in mind and with this community alongside of us. And then beyond that, just it's very exciting as a space to explore, trying to understand the range of experiences of these folks and how we can build something that they would find useful and helpful and hopefully enjoyable. That's a fun problem. Understanding how to kind of fit technology into those use cases, that's a lot of fun for our team.
Yeah, I bet it is. Computer vision seems to have come a long way over the past few years, especially when it comes to object recognition. How close do you think we are to perfection in this particular space, in percentage terms, if you wanted to, if you're able to give me a sense of where we are?
That's a great question. It's hard for me to pin a percentage on that. I would definitely say we're the majority of the way there in most cases. So I'll pin it 75% to 80% of the way there. That said, I think each additional percentage point is going to be a little bit harder than the one before it. But like, to me, we're at a very exciting point where a lot of very useful computer vision capability can be deployed upon a relatively humble smartphone. And all of a sudden, that means that there's a tremendous kind of breadth of tools and experiences that are available to folks that wasn't there even a few years ago. That said, like, to me, the technology part of it is only part of the picture. I think of the computer vision aspect as almost like GPS right now. On your smartphone, GPS is accurate down to a few meters, which is pretty useful for most cases. It's not good enough for doing, let's say, a self-driving car, but it is good enough for helping me navigate to a point on a map. It's helpful for me to do fitness tracking and some other really fun, valuable applications. I think we're in the same sort of place with computer vision, where it's not perfect yet, but it's good enough that we can do a lot of interesting things with it. And especially if we start pairing that information with other data that we may have about the environment. So as an example, if we've just identified that a person has pulled out a box of cornflakes, and then they go to their fridge and there's milk in the fridge and salsa in the fridge, the person is likely to want to hear about the milk first and then the salsa. So that's what we're really excited about, is not just the computer vision technology, but how can we pair that with understanding what the user's kind of desires are and their context and environment, so that's a more useful overall experience.
You know, I was impressed, Scott, that you don't need an internet connection to use Lookout. That can be very beneficial for a lot of us. You know, if you're on an underground train or you're in an area where you have low reception, that can be really useful. How difficult was all that to implement? I'm guessing the answer is very hard.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say, ask the question again every year from now until the distant future, because those are always trade-offs we're making. And as I mentioned earlier, the devices that were on the smartphones, they're definitely becoming more and more capable, where you can put more and more useful models on there. But they're still going to have limitations. And part of our work is understanding where those limitations are acceptable. So as an example, if you imagine that we can distinguish a cat from a dog, most of the time, if you don't have a cat or a dog, you probably don't care about that error rate or distinction. If you have both a cat and a dog, you probably care very much about which one is it in the frame right now. So that's kind of part of the question we have. It's not just about getting a model onto the phone. It's about getting a model that gives like the right results for the most valuable use cases onto the phone. And obviously, the nice thing about being on device is it's very rapid in terms of the latency and response times. You don't need an internet connection. And one thing we've understood from the folks that advise us is, hey, like that reliability that kind of is always there and is always ready and always works is important. So the on-device part is obviously important for us to keep developing.
Do you think the time will come when AI, artificial intelligence, and computer vision are at a level where they could replace the need for help from real people? And if so, how far away is that?
Well, we could spend a lot of time on that question. So I'm going to kind of take that question and flip it around just a bit. So over the years, there have been a lot of kind of tools that have evolved for our community. And we don't want to replace any of those. Those tools exist because they've been effective, because they're useful, and people already rely upon them. So our thinking is much more, where can we augment, where can we complement what's already out there? And what do I mean by augment or complement? Where can we give a bit more information? Where can we give a bit more choice to the user? Are there tasks that are very common and even maybe a little bit annoying or frustrating? Can we make those a bit easier? Where can we just kind of take a bit of friction out of the system? And to get a little more concrete, some of the user problems that we think about right now, I think across the industry, not just by us, but are relatively well solved. Not perfectly, but relatively well. If I think about a nice crisp page of plain text and a nice typical font, OCR can usually handle that and read it aloud with a high degree of accuracy. A typical person can often understand the content of that page. So that's kind of like the problem is already in relatively good shape. But if I add a little bit to that page now, I add some different formatting, some new fonts, a different layout, all of a sudden actually trying to articulate what's on that page and do it reliably and accurately for a person becomes much more challenging. And then we kind of extend that spectrum all the way out. And a very challenging question might be, hey, I want to put on a wardrobe. I want to have a wardrobe selected for me that reflects my personality. And on the tech side, we can imagine building a model that can recommend a safe wardrobe. Hey, just all grays all the time. You're always going to be fine. No problem there. But if we want to be a little more evocative, if Scott, I like more, certain materials or textures or styles, then like, how do we build a model that actually knows that and understands that? It can give me a good recommendation that I will always be happy with. I don't see how we can do that without having a person involved somewhere in the process. So overall, I think it's going to be this kind of continuum, and more we're trying to find those little opportunities to make kind of the less fun parts of life perhaps a little more easier. If someone wants to engage with another person, give more information, give more choice. So hopefully that interaction can be a little richer.
Okay, stay right there, Scott. I have many more questions to ask about the future of accessibility. Mark, this is a really interesting conversation we're having with Scott Adams from Google today.
Definitely is, and we're going to continue that conversation after we take a quick break. It is Double Tap TV. He is Stephen Scott. I am Mark Aflalo. Scott Adams continues after this quick break.
Love Double Tap TV? Listen to AMI Audio for Double Tap Canada every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for news and reviews on everything tech. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV. Thank you guys so much for being here. Again, if you're not already following us on Twitter, please do that. It is at Double Tap Canada. And if you want to ask us something, use that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap, and we'll get to your questions. Of course, if you want to email us, the email address is always feedback@ami.ca. Stephen Scott is in conversation with a very special guest from Google. His name is Scott Adams, and he is the product manager at Google for the Google Lookout app.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Scott, are there any other assistive apps or accessibility features that you're currently working on at the moment that you can tell us about?
I would love to, but actually keep that under wraps, at least for the time being. I'd say one thing that we are always thinking about, and you keyed off this in the beginning, is this idea of what's on device versus what we want to offer on server side. We know that on device is always going to be a highly valued experience, but there are certain things that we can do on the server that we can't do right now on hardware. And we kind of have this question in our minds all the time. Hey, should we actually enable some of these more ambitious workflows, but knowing we would require an internet connection? And that would mean that there's more latency. It would mean that if there's not internet connection, that's actually not available. And how valuable is that? How do we offer a user that choice? Should we offer that choice right now? That's kind of what we do a lot of our thinking is, should we wait a few more years until more of this is on device? Like kind of how do we trade that off? And those are choices that we can only make with kind of close ties to the community.
There's really interesting work going on with this Lookout app. Can I ask more about general accessibility projects and work that you're doing to make the lives of blind people easier?
Sure, I can give a little bit more here, fortunately. I'm pleased to have like a small involvement with something called Project Euphonia that other folks may have heard of. And it's some early research into building voice agents that better handle or better adapt to folks with impaired speech, with atypical speech. And in doing research there, we found that folks with atypical speech, they have many kind of typical technologies or tools are very hard or impossible to access. And through this research, we think we can actually enable more of those paths for folks with moderate to maybe even severe vocal impairment. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Scott. It's been really great speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us here on Double Tap TV.
Hey, thanks for the time. And thank you to you and all of your community for helping us through this.
Stephen, it's quite funny when you ask that question about other things he can talk about, the sarcasm in your voice when we know that these companies are always working on new tech and new things that we don't know about. I honestly believe that probably 50%, if not more, don't even make it to market and don't even see the light of day that we'll probably find out about in 10, 20 years from now. Some kind of tech they're working on, whether it be a folding device or some kind of new form factor or just an app that they're trying that just completely bombs.
Yeah, and the thing is, because obviously we focus here on accessibility, but it's really great when a new product comes along and it has accessibility built in, but it's obviously, for a lot of us, to be honest, it's more about the new product, where we all want to know what the next big thing is. My prediction from Google is the next thing we'll see is a Pixel Watch. That is something that I think is probably next on the line, and I'll be really interested to see how accessible they make that. We all know that the Apple Watch is a great app for a number of people with disabilities. Recently they've brought in the new Time to Walk series, which is exclusive to Apple Watch, and you obviously need the Apple Fitness Plus subscription as well. But they've built in even just a really simple thing like if you're in a wheelchair, you have the time to push feature built into that, which is really cool because it includes people and it brings people in, but it gives you the same functionality that everybody else can enjoy. And I think that's what's great about this. We see these developments coming along, new products, new ideas, new apps. They're coming in, they're making the hardware we have better and more enjoyable for us all to use. And what's wrong with that?
No, nothing at all. And the inclusive design, just like you mentioned with the wheelchair, for example, is just very, very cool to see how far we've come. I want to jump back to that Lidar sensor for a second because I think we underestimate the importance of the future of Lidar. And we're seeing it on autonomous vehicles. We've obviously seen it on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and we saw it first on the iPad. But now, slowly but surely, if you look at the App Store and you look for Lidar, you can actually see apps taking advantage of it, whether it's trying to measure a space, trying to place furniture in a room, or just trying to place, giant pieces of machinery into actual real space with augmented reality. I think we've just scraped the surface when it comes to the use of Lidar technology, and I cannot wait to see how it evolves over the coming years.
Well, that's it. And what's great about Lidar is that it came out and I said, I think from day one, well, what am I going to use that for? What is the benefit of having the new iPhone 12 Pro? Because, what am I going to use Lidar for? And then they bring out a feature within the magnifier called people detection, which in the world of COVID and social distancing is a perfect feature because now I know how far I am away from someone else. Using my phone, I can just hold my phone up to my chest and I can actually tell I'm 2 meters away from someone. That's brilliant. Or, I can go to the Seeing AI World channel, the new feature that's only available in iPhone 12 Pro models, where you can go to the Seeing AI app and I can identify where that cup is on the table so that I'm no longer going to spill it. These features are available. They're for, these specific features have been built around accessibility. The technology, though, is not. So, the technology has so much potential, but the fact that we're using it in such a positive way is great. It's a very exciting time, Mark.
And the fact that they can be reactive like that, no one expected a global pandemic. No one expected social distancing and mask wearing. No. And suddenly they can incorporate that into an app that quickly. That's quite that's ingenuity at its best. Stephen, a great episode as always. I can't wait to play with this Lookout app because it is fun, not only for people who with low vision or who are blind. I get to have some fun as well. Thanks to Scott Adams, a product manager over at Google, for joining us this week. On behalf of Stephen Scott, I am Mark Aflalo. Thank you guys for being here. As always, if you want to get involved on Twitter, we are at DoubleTapCanada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap. On email, just send us one right now. It's feedback@ami.ca. We will speak to you again next week on Double Tap TV.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. Hosted by Mark Aflalo and Stephen Scott. Editing, Will Attar. Production assistants, Wendy Kaufman. Content review, Zachary Aflalo. Social media, Andy Wynn. Segment producer, Sean Priest. Voiceover, Anna Vicino. Integrated Described Video Specialist, Ron Rickford. Coordinating producer, Jennifer Johnson. Director, Production, Kara Nye. Director, Programming, Brian Perdue. VP Content Development and Programming, John Melville. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2021, Accessible Media, Inc.